Yep. We're ready.
Okay, please call the next case.
Case number 6, AASSKK LLC seeks a rear setback variance to rebuild a non-conforming for setbacks structure to meet code requirements that have to be raised and reconstructed. Seeks 9-foot rear setback instead of the required 25 feet at 1012 Oxford Street.
Good evening to the board, council, and Mr. King.
Are you an attorney?
I am. My name is James Brando. I am the attorney representing AASSKK LLC. We affectionately refer to it as Ask LLC. Mr. Stile is here as the representative, the construction representative for the company as well. And we are here seeking to essentially complete construction on a property. It is a single-family residential property in an R1A zone. It is a pre-existing structure that is being reconstructed, is not being reconstructed outside of its original footprint or size, is being kept within those margins. The only thing that we're trying to do is bring it up to code. When it comes to any factual discussion or anything with regards to any specific dimensions of the lot, I'm going to refer to Mr. Stile as he's actively out there. If there's any questions that the board would have for us, however, we'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, I left there totally confused, because first the application just says rebuilding structure to original size. What was the original size, and what's that structure next to it? That's
Well,
half-built.
it says the rear setback was 25 feet, is required 25 feet, and they're asking for 9 feet.
Yeah, the back, and then there's a structure on the side is that?
No, it's only one structure. There's one single residence.
There's like a deck that looks on the side of the property. I don't know, it looks like it was half-built, and I couldn't see with any of these pictures are all black.
Oh, okay, I'm going to refer to Mr. Stile to walk you through those pictures because those are his. He'll be able to identify those, and of course we can have him sworn in. With regards to the actual size of the building itself and how it's being built, we do have architectural plans here today that we can present
Excuse
to
me
you.
just one second. Dan, wouldn't this already be grandfathered in?
It would if it was submitted within 12 months of the date of the damage. And I believe, and I don't have that information, but maybe Attorney Brando could tell us that.
Certainly, Counselor. My understanding is that the building was not up to code, that it had severe damage. What had actually happened is that my client had obtained a building permit to go in there and improve the property and repair it so it would be back up to code. During the course of making those repairs, he received a stop work order on the basis that he had to take down 2 of the walls and do some work to get the structure on that part up. He didn't take down the whole structure, he didn't raise it. He was simply removing 2 exterior walls, putting up 2 other ones. And that's what resulted in the stop work order. And that is why he's seeking the permit now, because he was required to get that. At the same time, there doesn't appear to be any lapse between the time that he started removing the structure and the time he started rebuilding and repairing the same. So I'm not, as you've said, I'm not entirely sure why we're seeking the permit, but to the extent that a variance may be sought, to the extent that we've been required to get that, we're here today seeking that permit. And I would...
Attorney Brando,
yes,
when
Counsel.
was the structure damaged?
Mr. Stile, would you like to testify?
No.
I'm sorry. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
August Stile, 1019 Wheeler Avenue, Scranton, PA. Stile. And the question was, I'm sorry?
Question was, when was the structure damaged?
Well, when we bought the property, it was condemned.
Okay. And when did you buy the property?
I believe it was in November of 18.
November of 18.
I believe. I don't remember exactly. November or October.
If I could give a little more background to how we got to this point. Mr. Stiles acquired this property, pulled permits to bring it up to code. In the midst of that, a portion of the rear portion of the building was in such bad shape rather than trying to just rebuild what was there, he took it all the way down to the ground and started building back up. So when the permit came across my desk, I said, well, when he took it down to the ground, kind of like the last case, it was removed. And at that point, he was required to meet the setbacks. But the building, he was already in the process of reconstructing it. Back to the same size that it was before, but because it was, that portion of the building was totally removed because of the condition of it.
Was it the foundation that was removed? Because I could see a new foundation.
Yeah,
put
he
in that
went right
section.
down and put a new foundation in and everything, because the foundation was bad, everything was bad.
So
He's
the
still building on the same footprint of the building that was there.
So he did not lose his footprint, am I correct?
He didn't increase his footprint, he didn't lose his footprint, he's building in the same footprint.
Right.
But because it wasn't a fire that would have given him approval to rebuild in the same spot, he tore it down himself. So kind of like we were saying in the last case, when you remove something, you remove it.
It's gone.
Yeah, but there was some miscommunication, I think, between our office and him. He was rebuilding the code under the belief that he was building back in the same footprint that he was before.
And when you read 806D, it says that a non-conforming structure that has been destroyed or damaged, a condemnation technically could be called damaged, then the owner may rebuild in a non-conforming fashion only if the application for the building permit is submitted within 12 months of the date of the damage or destruction, and work begins in earnest within 6 months afterwards. It's, if I get the time periods right here, you may come under that. But I need a little more testimony as to the time periods on that.
Okay.
So, Augie, when did you first begin your efforts on reconstructing the property at 1012 Oxford?
I want to say, I believe it was November of 18, I believe.
Can't really hear you very well.
I'm sorry,
I didn't hear his question, and I didn't hear your answer.
November of 18, I believe.
Is when you started
Right. And
the
then,
repairs, so to
Yes,
speak.
sir.
Let's call them repairs.
Yes.
Right. And at what time did you end up ceasing work on that property, Augie?
I believe we got the stop work order in April 14th of
this year?
2019. This year.
And that was after you got a permit for construction?
Yes, sir, I had the building permit prior to that.
And when was the permit? Sometime between November and April?
I believe it was issued in December or January.
So technically, when you started the repairs in November of 2019, that became the destruction of the building. In effect, even though you're repairing it, you're taking it down, so you're destroying it. And within 12 months, you applied for a permit,
Yes, sir.
and within 6 months after the permit, you started construction until it was stopped in April of 2019. I think he comes under 806D, and I think that's how we should take the vote,
Whether he falls under that.
whether he falls under that section, and therefore he can continue rebuilding on the same footprint.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Is there anybody in the audience on this case first?
Is there anybody else here to give testimony on this case? There is not.
So now we're just voting on whether he falls under the thing, which will,
Yes.
then he doesn't have to do anything else.
Then he doesn't
No
have to do
variance.
anything else. He could continue.
Okay, well, I believe he does. I'm the vote.
Ms. Newcomb?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Good.
Thank
You're
you.
all done. Good luck.
Jim, can I have your card? Do you have a card? Give me an address then, so I could, give me an address I could send this to. 7484. Thank you. Thank you.
Could we please call the next case?
Case number 7, Mariano Estevez seeks variance to construct parking lot on vacant lot at 524 Alder Street, R2 zone.
You please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Name and address, please.
Mariano Estevez, 35 Elmhurst Boulevard, Scranton, PA. The reason that I'm here today is because I want to make it to 524 Alder Street into a parking lot. The reason why I want to make this place into a parking lot because I'm going to open up a restaurant on 625 Piston Avenue. And by not having enough parking spots, I want to make this into a parking lot in front of the building.
The restaurant already exists, right?
Did you, he did come in front of us, right?
You're,
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
so you want those parking spots for the
For
business?
my restaurant, I want to make this combined. It's like, for one,
Is there,
because by not having enough parking spots in front of the building and around it, so I want to make sure my clients have enough parking spot behind the building.
behind?
far
the-
away-
It's right behind the building, yes.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
right
It's
behind
nowhere
us.
near. It's
It's a
nowhere
block
near the,
away.
it's like
a
200,
block, right behind, yes.
it's not in
that-
back, it's in front of and around the corner.
It's right in the alley, right in the alley,
It's
yeah.
very far. How many feet do you know
Like
approximately?
around 60 or 70 feet from the
there's-
corner, right?
Way more feet than that.
Is this gonna be for like employee parking, or what were you thinking?
Like combined, parking for customers and employees too, yeah.
Mr. King, did you happen to see where the parking lot was?
Yeah,
In
I was out
relation-
and posted the property,
In
yeah.
relation to how far, to where his building was? Way
It-
more than 60 feet.
Yeah, it's certainly not adjacent to or.
It's
and-
nowhere near.
And there's another parcel between your
Lynn Sanders
parcel
Bakery, right.
and the alley, so
Yes.
it would kind of be in the middle of nowhere.
So that part, his parcel is not on the alley?
No, there's another
there's
parcel
two
in
lots.
between. Yeah, there's two lots there. He has half of it, the half that's away from the alley.
Yeah, there used to be a house that just got crazy.
And can I approach this too?
Sure. I think we
We have
got,
that.
we have those.
Yeah. Yeah. No, let me see that. I'll take that. Yeah, thank you. That's what he wants to do with it. Did you look at the lot across, I remember your case well. Do you remember the lot across, or did you look
Right
at the lot
across the
across
street,
next to
yes.
the laundromat there?
Right next door, yeah.
Did you inquire about that?
No, not yet, I haven't. I think that was the closest one,
The
right?
problem you have here is you're a good distance away from the front door of your business.
Right, what I was thinking is because, it's crossing the road, it's a highway.
Yeah.
Could be dangerous for people, coming to the restaurant, so I was thinking, behind, it would be better because there's no high traffic there. Right.
I mean, my concern is you're putting a parking lot in the middle of a residential block. but we'll decide as we go along.
Right, yeah.
It just seems to me like I was assuming your lot was the one on the alley. So you're gonna be up and around in the middle of
Like
a
right
house
between-
and it just seems to, like a very odd space, very far away from the restaurant. I don't even know how your customers would find it.
Right, maybe direct a sign saying, you know, parking in the back.
But it's not in the back.
I mean, it would be in the same situation that we just did the other parking lot. We're not gonna attach it to nothing and it could be sold to anyone.
Yeah, they're not even close to each other.
Do you own the lot already?
No, not yet. Yeah, that's why I want to get the approval first, and then I start working on it.
How close your restaurant coming to open?
Pretty close, just waited for the contractor to make the bathrooms a little bigger, because they're kind of small, you know, so almost there.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to give testimony on this case?
Just so you have the 602E location of parking, it says that the off-street parking spaces shall be on the same lot or abutting lot with the principal served, unless the applicant proves the satisfaction to the zoning board that the guaranteed method of providing spaces is available using parking spaces within 400 feet of the entrance to the principal use. So the burden is on Mr. Estevez to show that this would be a good thing for the parking for his restaurant.
I do applaud you for trying to find more parking for the business. I just don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's the right, I think it's just too far away from the restaurant.
Far away.
That's just my opinion.
And I agree, and I think the second is what we do with that parking lot up in Taylor and Pine. This could be, if Mr. Estes changes his business or he moves on to something else, this parking lot's gonna be floating in the middle of the block as a parking lot. And I
Right.
have a little problem with that point there. Because you do have an auto repair shop right there that could just come in and start storing cars and everything on that point, so.
I make a motion.
I second.
She seconded.
Second.
They said.
Second. Okay. Ms. Newcomb?
I'm going to say no.
Mr. Morris?
No.
Mr. Gattens?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
No.
Thank
I
you
hope you do
much.
find something a little closer, because I do appreciate you trying to
I'm gonna
find a
try
little
to
more.
Check that laundromat out. He's putting everything up for sale there, so jump on us. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
say Mr. Estevez should be selling his services as the
Oh.
person to do the drawings. It's by far the best and
Yep.
most
He
comprehensive
definitely
drawing
got the
we've
best
got
drawing.
tonight.
He gets the
And you're
award for
right.
the
And
best
I'll
drawing.
I'll even go one step farther. His landscape work is impeccable that he does in his building. Thank you.
Did you call the next case? I'm sorry, did you call?
I'm sorry. Madison Jefferson Realty LLC seeks variance to use property as 7-unit apartment building at 544 Jefferson Avenue, R2O zone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Attorney Patrick Lavelle. I'm here this evening on behalf of my client, Madison Jefferson Realty LLC, seeking a variance to use the property, as Mr. King indicated, as a 7-unit apartment building, and it is situate at 544 Jefferson Avenue. As indicated in the application that we submitted in this matter, subject property has been utilized as a 6-unit residential property since 2017. It was purchased by my client in 2016. And rental unit registration applications and certificates for 2017, 18, and 19 were duly completed and sent to the Department of Licensing, Inspections and Permits in the City of Scranton. So it's been duly operated since since 2017 as a six-family apartment unit, and we're seeking to continue that use, and we're also seeking to get a variance to add the use of another portion of the building as a seventh unit. I would like to submit to you at this time a copy of these folders.
Thank you.
Each of these folders contains pictures of the subject property at 544 Jefferson Avenue, which is also referred to as the Carlisle House. As these pictures, I think, amply indicate, this is a beautiful property. It is very handsomely improved with all the requirements for apartment units for all 7 apartments. Following the depictions that you have in each one of these photographs, there is a picture of a 24-car parking lot and 2 indoor spots in the carriage house off of Moore Court behind 544 Jefferson Avenue, which gives us a total of 26 spaces. I think that the subject property would only be required under the zoning ordinance to have 12 spaces. After the depiction of the location of the parking lot, we have individual depictions of the apartments on all 3 floors. On the first floor, we are missing the depiction of what I will call apartment 1C. If you were to look at the first page of the handout, on the left-hand side of the first floor of this building is the location of apartment 1C. If you look at the photograph below, there's a picture on the right-hand side of the doorway that appears in this photograph of the location of apartment 1C. I bring to your attention that the real reason we're here today is that we received a letter dated June 27 of 2019 from Mr. King in his capacity as the acting zoning officer for the city of Scranton. And basically what he was telling us was that there did not appear to be, the subject property appeared to have been converted from a single-family residence into additional dwelling units in violation of section 306B of the ordinance. Bring to your attention the latter part of the handouts that we're giving you. There are architectural drawings which clearly indicate in those architectural drawings, which are dated 1999, that there was the creation of what I will call units or living units which had kitchens, bathrooms, all the things that would be necessary. To the best of my knowledge, there was never any abandonment of this use. The subject property was purchased by, spell his name? Paul Mansour. By a fellow by the name of Paul Mansour. He ran his office operation out of this building, but the point I'm attempting to make is this building was never abandoned for its use as a residential building. And so what we're here to do this evening is ask for, in essence, your approval to continue the use as a 6-unit residential property, and we're asking for a variance to use a portion of the subject property, namely approximately 500 feet on the first floor as a 7th apartment.
Was there a reason that wasn't included when you first purchased the building as an apartment?
I can't answer that question. Can you answer that? I'm not sure.
You have to be
He has to
sworn
be
in. Hang on
sworn
one
in.
second.
Please. No, I'm going to swear him in right now, I'm sorry. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Don Romano, 811 Clay Avenue, Scranton.
Thank you.
Mammano.
Okay, so I'll repeat the question again.
Yes.
When what year did you purchase the building, did you say?
2016.
So was there a reason you didn't use that for an apartment, like, at that period?
The previous owner chose to use it for his office space.
Okay, so I mean, you continued to use it as an office, and now you decide, that's what I'm trying to get at. Why now you're trying to put an apartment in there?
It's been occupied as an apartment for 3 years, and now we're here for a variance for that. We were told by the previous zoning officer if we met the parking requirement, which we do, we wouldn't need a variance. We just received a letter for the first time.
So what I'm trying to get, so you were renting it out as an apartment already?
For 3 years, we have a
Okay,
valid
that's what I'm
rental
saying. I wasn't sure if
registration.
it was been empty all this time, that's
No,
what
no,
I'm trying
no.
to see.
For 3 years, we have a valid rental registration from
Okay.
the city of Scranton acknowledging the 6 units for the previous 3 years. Now we're here for the 7th unit and the response of the letter that we received.
So was there
Can-
permits issued for that apartment addition, or?
There's a permit on the back door dated May 17th, 2019, with your name on it.
Yeah,
What was that for?
that was for the back deck. I replaced the rear deck of the property.
Deck. All I saw
I'm-
back there was a little staircase going down.
I'm
didn't
missing
see any-
something, I'm still missing something. Maybe I'm just not hearing it right. There's 6 units in the apartment, right? And you're looking to add a 7th into that
Correct.
apartment, okay? So was the 7th ever occupied? 1C, is that the number, Mr. Lavelle, you called out 1C, is that the one we're talking about at this
At
point?
1C, I think is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Okay. So if 1C was inhabited all this time, so you had 7 going forward then, am I correct?
Yes, it was previously registered as a 6 unit.
No, but I'm missing something. I just, so how many units are in the building altogether? 7?
7.
It's okay. So you're only registered for 6.
Correct.
So where was the 7th all this time, is what I'm
On
getting?
the first floor.
The first floor was unoccupied space, the front
Unoccupied.
to the left.
Unoccupied?
Correct.
Okay, so now you want to occupy. There's no
Yes.
one in there right now?
There is someone in there right now. We didn't come for a variance for the 7th unit, that's why we're here today.
Okay, so you...
So you put somebody into
very.
variance, and so you're doing, we're going reverse here. You already have it occupied, but now you're coming to the zoning board?
The conversation I had with my attorney and with the previous zoning officer is being that there was no abandonment, and if we met the parking requirement, which we did, we wouldn't have to get a variance for the additional unit in the building. We've since got a letter, and that's why we're here today.
And we spoke with the zoning officer.
Well, I'm not questioning, I was just losing track if that was ever an apartment before, or you're just taking space and creating another apartment. That's what I was trying to get at, to see where it was at that point. Thank you.
So as I was saying, the permits were issued for this apartment years ago, you're saying, or?
2016, 17, I'm sorry, 2017, 18, and 19, they've previously for 3.5 years have been occupied.
I
as
mean,
what it is
building
today.
permits for the apartment that you built out.
Well, it was existing.
The apartment was already built and it was used as an office?
Yes, there was multiple bathrooms and kitchens throughout the property. And the work that we didn't require a permit. It was minor interior work to convert it to what it is today. There was multiple kitchens, bathrooms throughout the property.
And that parking lot that's in the rear, that's part of this property?
It is. So when the property was purchased from Paul Mansour, it was 544 Jefferson, 531, 533 Madison, 535 Madison, 537 Madison. Those 3 properties and this one share that parking lot.
So how many units is that total, apartments?
7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
And how
We
many
spoke
parking?
with Don King about it. He said being that they were existing apartments for many years, the parking requirement wouldn't apply to those 3 buildings. But I mean, I would never want to sell one without the other because the parking is needed for all 4 buildings to operate the way it is today.
So Don, for clarification, Don, what was the basis of your letter?
The base of my letter was, Mr. Hinton received a complaint that the building was being used for apartments. Reviewing our file, I could find no certificate of occupancy or permits that would have allowed that to have been converted into apartments, and there was no certificate of occupancy allowing it to be used as apartments.
So according to the city, it's basically still a single home?
I said single home, going back to the records, that was the only reference I could find to the Carlisle house was that it was a single-family house.
However,
How many square
to
footage
go
are,
before the court, and have rental registration certificates
I know.
issued by the city for 2017, 18,
Oh, I
19.
don't doubt that, you know.
Yeah,
They'd
the
be
rental
hang-
registration
they'd be hanging
ordinance,
us.
the rental registration ordinance does say that does not guarantee that you have legally zoned apartments.
Did you ever try to get occupancy permits for those apartments?
I was under the assumption that registering with the city of Scranton and getting a valid rental registration, paying for it, was my registration. And you know, I've been doing that for 3.5 years and just got this letter a month ago. We met with Don King and Pat Hinton at the time, my attorney Pat Lavelle. We had a conversation about it, and they figured the best way to resolve it is to come before the board to ask for the variance that we're here for today.
I have a question on your receipts for the rental registration for 2018, 2019. If there were 7 units in, they're only calling out 6.
There was only 6 units occupied at the time of the registration.
So when did the occupancy of that apartment take place then?
The 7th one,
The 7th one, yeah. When did the tenant move into that apartment?
January of 19.
January of 19.
So.
Maybe February of
Apartment 7 is
19.
already occupied, that was what I
So
was saying.
wouldn't that show on your 19 receipt, if they're in there already in January?
No, it didn't.
But I mean, it should, right?
It should have.
Do you think that's something you should have corrected at that point, or?
My office manager submits the rental registrations. He did it. I was aware of it after I got the notice. And then, you know, that's why we're here today to make that correction.
Good.
To whom are these units rented?
All medical students going to the Geisinger Medical School.
Beautiful home. Give it that
Thank you.
much.
Yeah, they're very happy.
It is beautiful, but what is that large structure in the rear?
That's a carriage house,
What's it used for?
indoor parking.
So there's parking in there
Yeah,
for the
there's two
tenants, and how many spots are in there?
2 spots inside the garage, 24 spots in the lot. Currently, the garage isn't being used for parking because I don't need it, but if we needed it, it's more than adequate for
But there's
2.
no, yeah, so there's no signage that says that this parking lot here is designated for 544 Jefferson Avenue. So it looks like it's a public lot to me.
He said there's multiple buildings that he has there that uses that.
There are signs
There's
that
no
it's...
guarantee that he's gonna have enough spots for all of us.
No, there is, because my tenants need the parking, and if anyone parks there that's not a tenant, all the cars that park in that lot have a parking pass hanging on the rearview mirror. If a car is in there without a pass, the car gets towed. And we have signs for
So
that.
there should be a sign that says permit parking only.
There is. It's on the telephone pole and on that wall.
Don, if we
Yeah, that's not. yeah.
approve these, would they have to get occupancy permits for all these apartments?
Yeah, I would assume we would want a general inspection and
Yeah, that's-
and then.
I mean, with 7 units, do they require certain things like sprinklers and?
You're out of my bailiwick there with, that's a code question. It's quite possible.
When we met with Don King and Pat Hinton at the time, he did say, after we leave the zoning board, if we're granted the variance that we're here for, that he would require, I believe, Northeast Inspection to do a safety inspection, and whatever they say, we're willing to comply with.
Yeah.
If they need anything additional to currently the way the property is set up and has been operated.
You said that permit was for a back deck?
Correct. The second floor of the property has a rear deck that the second
There's no
floor...
pictures of that in here.
No, I don't think there's any pictures of the back of the building. I just, for the purpose of today, I just wanted all the interior shots in the front. But there is a very large rear deck that we just replaced a few months ago, and that's what that permit was for in the back window.
So the work is completed.
It is.
How long are the permits required to be in a window after a job is completed? Don, do you know?
While the job is active,
Yeah, so it's a little, that was very deceiving.
It's just a
Seeing that
matter of
permit
needs to be
there.
removed from the window. We were waiting on some extra work with the railings, and it took a little longer.
You don't need permits for landscaping work, do you?
No.
In here.
No.
It doesn't have anything to do with the 7 units. Let's stick with the 7 units.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to give testimony on this case? There is not. I make a motion.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gattens was the second.
Was the second, you made the motion. Ms. Newton?
I'm gonna say no, because it just seems like everything was done in, like, before zoning approval.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Gaddis?
As long as you're willing to come compliant when the city, comes in for their inspection, everything, and you open the doors wide open for them, I'll say yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
I vote yes. 3-1, you've been approved.
Thank you. Thank you.
9 and 10 are completely incomplete.
Please call the next case.
Case number 9, Frank P. Wheeler, seeks special exception pursuant to section 806E3 to reuse the structure at 520 Madison as a 5-unit apartment building. Previous use was a bed and breakfast, or the alternative seeks a variance to use the property as a 5-unit apartment. R2 zone.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yes, sir.
Name and address, please.
Frank Wheeler, 3013 Hermosa Lane in Havertown, Pennsylvania, 19083. Hermosa, Hermosa. Havertown, Pennsylvania, 19083. Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. I'm here tonight to request a reestablishing of a nonconforming use of a house on 520 Madison Avenue. The house is a 7,500 square foot estate home that was previously owned and known as the Cleveland House. It was owned by the original owner of the Globe store. If you guys remember the Globe store. By the way, while I'm in Philadelphia right now, I was born and raised in West Side, went to Scranton Prep, went to the University of Scranton, so I'm in the process right now of buying this as an investment property. The house is 7,500 square foot. It has 4 distinct apartments inside the building. The previous owner, I don't have all of the facts, when I pulled the public records, it was literally a ream of paper between the previous owner and the city going back and forth on permits and certificate of occupancies and things that he needed to get done on the property. To my knowledge, he was never able to establish a certificate of occupancy. He was trying to operate it as a bed and breakfast. I don't believe he was successful in doing that. So what I'm trying to do is reestablish a non-conforming use to either have 4 or 5 apartments being used.
I'm going to ask you to stop for a second, too.
Yes, sir.
We got a fight going on downstairs.
I could hear
I
something.
hear it, I just don't know what it is.
Well, that was 2 hours ago. I hope he's still not here.
Is it?
I was wondering what the screaming was.
If that's it. What's going on? Is the same guy from the first case?
No worries.
Before we move forward, Don and Dan, oh, where did they get going? He's on site still screaming. Before we go any farther, I'm going to petition council that we start having armed security at these meetings, because this atmosphere in this day and age, I think it benefit us all for a little bit of protection here.
I mean,
because-
these guys are afraid to walk outside right now. They're in the hallway.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a panic button here somewhere, but we need to nail that down.
Yeah, I called the police and they're responding, and hopefully they take care of that downstairs.
Start right before I leave. That would be perfect.
We're gonna follow you out. So.
Oh, that can hurt anyone.
My apologies, I was one of the guys that you mentioned about the one-page application. So first time, new guy, bad excuse. I just wanted to give you, these were pamphlets that were created by the previous owner, just to give you a sense of the quality of the property inside. I don't know if you guys remember or not. So my request is for 5 apartments. There's currently in the building 4 apartments and one area that's currently the lobby of what he was trying to create as the bed and breakfast. So eventually, further down the road, my intent is to look at that lobby area as another potential apartment. It is another 1,000 square feet, and it has a bedroom and a kitchen and a bathroom and its own entrance, et cetera.
The only parking, I don't know if is there off-street parking?
There's off-street parking along the front of the building. The lot is 120 feet, so there's off-street.
Off-street.
So there's a garage in the back that's 41. I have the plot plan, and again, I apologize for not giving it to you. It's about 38 by 41. There's enough parking spots in there for 4 cars, and then there's a driveway that's owned by the building itself, where I can put another car in there, easily stacking 2 cars. I know you don't count stacked cars as 2 spots, but my goal was to have one of the apartments have 2 of those. So there's enough spots for right now 6 cars. And that's all off-street, and that's off of McKenna Court, which is in the back of the building. My intention is, so I'm a Scranton graduate, University of Scranton graduate. It's appalling to drive through the hill section and see some of the student housing that's out there. I do not have any intention of renting to undergraduate students at the University of Scranton. My goal is to compete with the condo apartments that are being built down in the city, like the Bit and Bender and others. This is an upscale building. The previous owner put in over $1 million in mahogany wood like this as you go through the property. It's a beautiful building. So my goal is to get professionals in there that would be renting and just blend in with the neighborhood.
As far as I know, it never actually operated as a bed and breakfast.
That-
I was at a party there for Governor Wolf, and
Right.
I think something with sprinklers or something like that.
Yeah, so-
And it was never allowed to open.
So he had been told that he needed to have sprinklers because he wanted it as a bed and breakfast. I don't know if he operated as a bed and breakfast. He actually advertised paper and on social media. So I don't know if he did operate. He did have parties there. There was a huge party tent on the side of the building. So I don't know if he ever operated as a bed and breakfast. But he did get around the sprinkler because the house is listed on the historic site.
It's beautiful inside.
So I had a meeting with the Historic Architecture Review Board just to talk about potential parking plans for the back. If I needed the 5 apartments and I need to get 7.5 spots, my thought was at least approach Harb to see what their thoughts were on me knocking the garage down. And then I could create a much broader parking area in the back, all off-street, where I'd be able to have more than the legal 5 spots that I have right now.
Don.
The house is abandoned. Personally, I'm currently I'm an equitable owner, so I'm currently in an agreement of sale with the bank. The close date on the property is August 30th. It's contingent on me getting this variance. The property is vacant right now, so my goal is to buy it, fill it with professionals, and, you know, make it a useful house in the neighborhood.
He doesn't have a parking plan, so what's,
He has enough for,
says-
the
he says
property
he
is
has enough-
90 feet wide, so he has enough for 9 spots there.
It's a large property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
so
with
he
the
had,
4-foot
I mean, because
setbacks.
without a plan, it's hard to, it's hard to, I mean, I've been in the back. I don't remember where I parked when I was there, but I just wanted someone to attest that you had the parking, that's all.
Yep.
To meet the requirements, you would have to take that garage down. I mean, it'd free up enough for 9 spots for you right there, which should, you know, cover what you're required on.
And I'm fine if that was a condition on the variance.
To get the off-street parking, you're going to need it, because, I mean, you know what's across the street there is all student house and everything, so you know that block is packed when school's
Yeah,
in
the college is there, and I
And
think
you
there's
have
another,
3 or
there's another
4
business
apartment
there.
units. We have 3 or 4 apartments that are student housing across the road from
Yeah,
there.
the right, the student housing is further up the road, yeah.
So your floor plan is evidently going to change in your apartments, because
Nothing.
You're putting
Are we gonna
kitchens in.
take, do you need a
Yeah,
2-minute?
I mean, every apartment is fitted right now for.
We're gonna just take 2
Correct.
seconds here for him to run down and let
Yeah,
somebody
sure.
in, okay? Just
Oh,
take,
okay, yeah.
but I'm trying to.
Might be the police. That's what they told us. That's I wasn't sure. Yeah, yeah. Because he evidently he wasn't happy that Lamont or whatever his name was getting the apartment. And then- Yeah. Like 3 of them are, and the other 2 guys carrying on something like that. I don't know what they're doing. I don't think it's-
Time, guys.
We'll start from the beginning.
I think we're left off with the parking, is that right, or where were we at?
I know he was saying he has to tear the garage down.
Yep, yeah,
So
no
how-
problem.
How many
It's-
spots? We have 5 apartments, right?
He needs 8 spots, or, yeah, 8 spots. He has 9. He has 91 feet on the property line. You take 8 off of that, I mean, it's 93, so he has what he needs.
I had already talked to Harb about knocking the garage down and started that process if necessary.
Yeah.
So if that's the condition, that's fine.
I think it's going to be one of the conditions that we
Okay.
would need to put into that. Now, you said that So I'm looking at this, and naturally, there's no kitchens in most of them. So you already put...
There are kitchens in 3 of the 4 apartments, and
So
one of
you're putting a
them,
kitchen
one of them
in-
has a kitchen, from a framing standpoint, has the kitchen and the hookups.
Yeah.
So all I need to do is put appliances and get a plumber.
So, I mean,
And I've got estimates from some of the local licensed contractors to do that.
So the 4 will have it, so you're looking for a 5th unit, is that what you're looking for?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, up to 5.
Well, right
I'm
now
gonna
they're all-
start, right now there's 4.
Right now, there's just individual rooms, but very large
No,
individual.
there's the apartments, 3 of the 4 are full-blown apartments.
Oh, so
And then
then
the
it must have
4th
changed
one-
since I was there, 'cause-
They changed it, right.
Okay.
So the 4th one is one that I need to actually put appliances and kitchen and counters and all that. And then the 5th area that I'm trying to get approval for up to 5, because he created a lobby for the bed and breakfast. And I eventually want to get that approved as an apartment, because it's a pretty good size, and I think I can turn it.
So Don, all these would have to go through
Yeah,
inspections and you're gonna have to go through all
So,
the.
right, so if you grant the variance, literally tomorrow, I will request the certificate of occupancy. I just had my own inspector do the house, check the house last week. He found nothing. He said the house is in excellent shape. There was a couple of things on HVACs that I think I need to take care of. But I've already talked to the city 55 times. Don's sick of getting calls from me. So I want to get a CO immediately. I have the rental registration paperwork already, so the goal would be if I can buy the house on August 30th from the bank. It's owned by the bank. It went through a sheriff's sale in March. So buy it August 30th, look to try to rent it in September, and then hopefully I can find professionals that would be willing. And I think I won't have a problem doing that, given the shape of the building.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to give testimony on this case? There is not?
Okay,
You want to make a condition?
I want to make a motion that we put a condition of that prior to the variance being given, is that garage be taken down, removed, and create the 9 parking spots in the rear of the property that's needed.
Paved parking spots.
Paved parking spots in the rear of the property.
So you made the motion with the condition? That was the motion? I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Newcomb?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, vote of 4-0, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good luck with this.
That's the last.
Please call the next case.
Kenneth and Mary Ellen Lake seeking variance for commercial indoor recreation use, batting and throwing practice, and baseball coaching in 1,000 block Engle Court in the rear of 1023 Wheeler, which was the closest address I could find, R1A zone.
And I have some maps to give you a better idea of where this is, because it's kind of hidden. But I'm also I'm Jamie Hailstone, attorney for Ken and Mary Ellen Lake, the owners of the property. Originally, we were under the impression we needed a variance when speaking to the zoning officer. I've looked at this a little more closely, and I believe what we're looking for is an expansion of a non-conforming use. And I'll explain that, and I'll make my motion to amend my application orally before the board. This is a warehouse property that was originally built in 1969. It was Armbruster Electrical. My client bought it in 2005 from Armbruster. It's always been used as a commercial warehouse and office. Prior to my client buying it, there were more employees, up to, we've heard, in excess of 20, 30 employees at one time. My client has very few employees. It's himself, his wife, and some other people. So since at least 1969, it has been continuously used as a commercial warehouse and office building. What my client wants to do is expand that use to allow a Phil Rossi, who trains softball. He's a very specific. It's for batting, for softball. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday and Sunday. at this point, and it's also seasonal. It's only from November until March. So what we're really looking for today is a special exception to allow the expansion of the use of this building. It's a 5,000 square foot building. Mr. Rossi would be using less than 1,000 square feet for the recreational purposes. That puts us at about 4 parking places. As you can see on the maps, and we can talk about it when my clients give more testimony, there's well over 4 parking places. The use that he has been using it, the requirement for the warehousing is 1.2 per employee and 1 extra. So we're talking a total of about 7, we'll say 10. He's got an entire city block basically that is his parking area right next to it. So so we can start talking about it.
Did you bring any pictures of the building?
Yeah.
And all right, good.
No interior.
I mean, I wasn't even sure I was looking at the right building when I was
I
there.
couldn't find it. I put it into GPSs, I couldn't find it. Said that.
It's hidden. It's right on, and I'll walk you through it here a little bit. Between this map and I've got
I'm assuming it's going to be this here.
I've also got a tax map.
Okay. You gotta go to Dunmore. This is Dunmore to get back.
And as you can see from here,
No, that's the entrance.
you come in off the second street, which is Dunmore, right on the border between Dunmore and Scranton. And then the green on the tax map, that's my client's property.
I was picturing it at the end of Main.
Yeah, because when I went there, I had to go up and meet them on a sewer issue. I came in that way, walked.
It also has access off on the port, but that's an alley, and it's better to come in and out on Second, which is a Light Street, normal City Street, size-wise.
Maybe we should see why you're making this a special exception as opposed to a variance. Well, give us a little more background.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, a special exception would be a change from one non-conforming use to another. How has this warehouse use been since 1969, I think you said?
That was
Just to expand a little bit more on that.
when it was built, correct. I can have my client talk about it, but based on the deed, Armbruster bought the property and built the warehouse in 1969. And again, my client bought it in 2005 from the Armbrusters. It was always a warehouse, always a commercial building. As you can see, it's in the backyards of most of these houses. They had property and they had parking, but if you could, I'm going to have Mr. Lake give some testimony if he can be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Name and address, please.
Ken Lake, 621 Clay Avenue, Scranton. Born and
Thank you.
raised here.
Mr. Lake, when did you purchase this property?
14 years ago.
And what have you been using it for since that time?
Warehouse, office,
And when you purchased it, what was the building being used for?
warehouse, office.
And is your understanding that it has been, for as long as the building's been built, used for those purposes?
Yes.
And how did you learn that?
When I purchased it, the Armbrusters owned it, and they had an electrical company in there. I believe it was a commercial electrical company.
Were you aware of whether or not they had any employees?
I was told they had 50 employees there.
And with regard to your current business, what kind of activities do you do at this property?
It's just office space and warehouse.
How many employees do you have?
Just one, my grandson.
You recently expanded the use of the property, is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the expansion of the use?
Phil Rossi wants a training center in there. He's my brother-in-law, and I'd like to provide that for him.
And
There is bathrooms in there too. There's 2 bathrooms.
And when you say training center, what exactly is he doing there?
Just batting and pitching training. What's that? Softball, girls softball.
And it's primarily batting practice, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And he's a coach or a trainer, correct?
Exactly. I would consider him a professional trainer. He's a scout for, I believe, the Indians now.
No,
Miami. I'm sorry.
We may have to swear in Mary Ellen too, so she can correct him.
Is the training one-on-one, or is it a class?
It's one-on-one, yes, with Phil Rossi.
And what is the schedule? What is his current schedule there?
I believe it's going to be 4 days a week. 2 days during the week and Saturday, Sunday.
And what are the times?
My wife can answer that better.
We're going to swear you in.
Yep.
Is the truth, I'm sorry, let me do this again, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Mary Ellen Ingle Lake, 621 Clay Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the question was, what are the hours of the training?
Tuesday and Thursday, 3 to 7, and Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 6.
And this is seasonal?
Yes, he works all year, well, most of the year on his scouting job, so he's only here in town from like October to,
Off-season, right?
yeah, to March.
So you'd say this is the winter season?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's, no, and the application didn't say anything, so this says you want to have batting and throwing practice. Does that mean like batting cages?
No,
Or
no.
someone actually throwing a ball to someone?
He throws the ball to them, he gives them instruction, yes.
And how many people would you anticipate being there at a time?
Maybe 6?
Would it be like an appointment thing, or?
Yes,
like-
it's all private lessons.
Is there going to be illuminated signage on the outside of that building?
What was that, sir?
Is there going to be signs that light up on the outside of the building?
Oh,
No.
It's hard to see here, but it says it's in the rear of 1023 Wheeler Avenue. Is there I assume someone from that residence is here, but is there a fence in the backyard that separates the parking lot from the
Fencing.
house?
Yes.
It's hard to see on here, I see your shadows.
The whole property is fenced in.
This hasn't started yet. This is something you're looking for to start this November, if I heard correctly, November.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, no, you did. It started already, and that's, we received a
Yes,
notice from Mr. Sweeney.
What I thought.
So Dan, you were trying to, are we gonna
Well,
take,
They're arguing that they're changing it from a non-conforming warehouse use to another non-conforming training center, let's call it, baseball, softball training center. So that would come under 806G, which talks about you can change one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use as permitted by special exception. And the board should review traffic generation, noise, dust, fumes, etc., any outdoor storage, hours of operation, compatibility with the character of the surrounding area, and the parking. So they're the items to consider, whether this would be a bigger burden than what was there previously.
Can I, on your justification for request, the unnecessary hardship, what are you claiming the hardship is in this case?
Well, actually,
Actually, it's not going up.
we're not seeking a variance.
Change that, okay, you're going
Correct,
to
yeah.
non-conforming.
And I would say we're not changing the use, we're expanding, and under the ordinance, if we're using more than 5% and less than 25% of the existing building, we can ask for a special exception. This is a 5,000 square foot building. The actual training area is going to be less than 1,000 feet. So we're under the 25%, we're above the 5%. So
What's the rest of the building going to be used for?
it'll continue to be used as the warehouse and
So it's an
office.
active warehouse still?
Correct. It's
Okay.
still an active warehouse, yes. Yep.
For what? What is he doing there?
What is it you do?
Right now, I have a hauling business, clean out service, attics, basements, garages. From time to time, I store stuff in the building. Right now, there's shelving in there, and my lawnmower and snowblower.
And that's where your office is also?
Exactly.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to give testimony on this case? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
My name is Justin McGregor. I live at 1107 Wheeler Avenue. I'm sorry, my name is Justin McGregor, MacGregor. I live at 1107 Wheeler Avenue in Dunmore, which is an adjacent property to Mr. Lake's property.
Did you want to?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Heidi McDonough. I live at 1103 Wheeler in Dunmore, in the property adjacent to Mr. Lake's property.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to put an objection on the record. These are not residents of Scranton, they're Dunmore residents.
But they're within 200.
They're within they're within
feet, so
200 feet.
We'll allow them.
May I also add, oh, sorry, go ahead.
They're effective property owners, so they can testify.
And part of my property is in the city of Scranton. My house is in Dunmore, but the property does extend into Scranton on Wheeler.
And to make a note on his objection, there was a posting that was placed in Dunmore on a telephone pole in the neighborhood. But there are a whole host of issues the neighborhood has with this, and I have some documentation here that outlines our position in the neighborhood.
You have to show it to Attorney Hailstone first.
So to begin, the first question I have is these postings go out, and that gives the residents an opportunity to come here and prepare ahead of time. Now, I don't know the rules and regulations. This is my first zoning board hearing, but is it appropriate or allowable to have someone make a verbal change to an application at the last minute when we've prepared beforehand? I think that, we've been here for 5 hours tonight. We've prepared well in advance, and that he should be held to the standard that he applied for. Now, before we get into that, the non-conforming language, a little bit of history on this building. I purchased my home from the Armbrusters, the children of the Armbrusters. That was a manufacturing plant that had 60 employees. Mr. Lake took it over in 2005. I moved into the neighborhood in 2014 and have only seen him use it for storage, which means he abandoned the original non-conforming use of the building, which was commercial manufacturing. Now he's doing storage out of there, and now he wants to go and have an exception or a variance interpretation based on hardship to another non-conforming use for recreational commercial purposes, which is not allowable under R1A residential zoning rules. It's a major concern. Now, the other major concern is that he's here asking for this now when for nearly a year he was running this business. And what he's telling you now is not what he told me the other day. He told me that there would be at least 60 parents coming and using this business all the time. Now let me tell you about my experience with the batting cage business being run out of here and the experiences of my neighbors and Heidi, who's here. I also had submitted a petition in this, which I pulled out, which is why you see it was ripped. I was unaware we couldn't submit petitions. But I'd like to speak on behalf of the neighborhood, as Mr. Al Young did and Mr. Mark Seitzinger did, and say that everyone is concerned, including Scranton residents, and I find it very suspicious that Dunmore residents weren't even included in their application here. But if you were going to move forward based upon their original application and hold them to it, Section 4451E3, variant Section B standards state that there are several that have to be met. The fourth states that a variance, if authorized, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property, not to be detrimental to the public welfare. This neighborhood, 2nd Street, is the only access road that will be used. I live on Wheeler Avenue. Several of these neighbors live on Wheeler Avenue, and we don't have parking on Wheeler Avenue. We park out back. It's a quiet street, which is almost an alley. We have kids that ride bikes. There are 14 or 15 kids in the neighborhood, several of whom have disabilities. There are pictures in the packet that you'll see of the kids playing in the yard. Kids ride their bikes, they play basketball, and the neighbors socialize with one another. It's not, you know, a matter of course, you know, during the week would be walking across the street, 2nd Street, into my neighbor's yard to hang out and have our kids play. It's our position that the granting of a variance would alter the essential character of the neighborhood and be detrimental to the public welfare, because during the time that he was running these batting cages, cars would fly up and down the road all night long, creating dangerous issues. One of which was March 27th of this past year. My wife and my 8-month-old son were getting out of the vehicle at night and were almost hit. I personally reached out to Pat Hinton, and I have a screenshot of the conversation if the council is going to object to that, where I pointed that out. And he had responded to the property and looked into it, and shortly thereafter, Mr. Lake had stopped all activity with the batting cages. Moreover, we believe that this would lower our property values. His parking lot is not paved. It did create dust. It will create dust and noise, and it will create a second busy road behind us. We already have a busy road in front of us. This is just not beneficial to the neighborhood as a whole. Furthermore, I think the city of Scranton has an obligation, according to language in the law with adjacent municipalities, to contact adjacent municipalities that would be affected, or residents that would be affected. We spoke with Joe Lawrence today. Joe Lawrence in Dunmore had not heard anything. So, I mean, there are many issues here, and the main issue is, you know, the oral change to have him be granted something separate that we didn't have time to prepare for. Now I'll hand it over to Heidi. Maybe she has something.
Before you hand it over to Heidi, did you say that you heard, did you say batting cages? Because I just asked them if there were batting cages, and they said no, they're just ball thrower.
The rumor that we heard, and talking to all the neighbors, was that there was a baseball operation and it was batting cages, but it was an operation nonetheless that they didn't have approval for, that they were running, that they're here now asking basically for forgiveness for.
Well, I just asked because batting cages make a lot of noise with their woofing and their echoing of the bat. You know, I just because they said no, so I was just asking.
Yeah, in fairness, I'm sorry,
Mr. McGregor, so last year they ran this camp?
Yes, this was
Just describe for the board what type of traffic there was, what type of parking there was.
So
since it's been up and running for a year, let's get it out on the table.
So on any given night, especially in the fall in November when it gets dark early, whether you're coming home with groceries or you're coming home, you know, with your little guy getting him out of the seat, you know, you're in this road, and cars park here, cars park there, and keep up both sides of the road, which leaves it very narrow, and the lighting isn't the best, and it just creates a dangerous situation. So, I mean, what we saw were cars flying in and out. You would see one fly in, drop their kids off, fly back out with no regard for any of the safety of the neighbors there. And it would go on for hours of the night, hours in which you would, you know, generally be out in the yard doing something, or, you know, taking a walk over to the neighbor's house. 3 to 9, as they said.
Dan, well, what could this, if say we turn this down, what could this building be used for? Can it still be used for the manufacturing that they said it was?
Still could be used for the warehousing, because that's never stopped. The manufacturing would be another issue because it's an R1A, and there's no testimony here that the manufacturing has continued.
So if he wanted to rent it out to a trucking warehouse that brought in tractor trailers through there, is that?
That would be warehousing.
So, I mean, I just wouldn't want to see you, I wouldn't want to see you not want a batting cage and have him rent it out. That's something that could be even worse. That's the only thing I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Because obviously he's not going to let it sit there empty, right? I mean, I don't want to see you turn down something that could be a little less than what he could do with it.
Well, and I understand your concerns, but, you know, if that were to happen in the future, we would be more aware of it, and Dunmore would be more involved. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if it was, you know, created in the 60s, the zoning ordinance takes effect, and it's given the non-conforming use of a manufacturing space, and then Mr. Lake purchases it, and then doesn't use it for that non-conforming use. He essentially abandoned that non-conforming use and has now applied for another non-conforming use. So, you know, did he abandon the opportunity or the ability to have large-scale warehousing and operations in and out of there?
Doesn't sound that way.
Okay.
I think the issue is that he's been running a business for a year without proper zoning approvals. Like, what, doesn't matter what he does with the building, and I think the issue for me is that he's been running this business for a year and got away with it. That's my issue.
Yeah. So it's our opinion that he, you know, they be held to what they applied for here, and the ruling be made on that, if that's possible. I don't know if it is, sir.
I don't think it really makes a difference, because the compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood is an issue for both, whether it's a variance or a special exception. And that's the key issue here, how it affects the surrounding neighborhood.
That's the other issue. It's an R1A.
So it's really the same issue for both, either applications.
And I appreciate your concerns, Mr. Walsh. Thank you.
I just wouldn't want to see it go to something worse. That's the only, I mean, I mean, I was never back there before. It's a huge area back there, and I can't see it sitting empty forever. That would be my only concern, is that something else that would be more intrusive to you than what's going on right now. That was my only concern.
Yeah, I completely
I
understand.
have some questions for
Sure.
Greg. Justin, where do you put your garbage cans?
I place my garbage cans outside of my garage on 2nd Street.
On 2nd Street. So the Dunmore garbage trucks come in and out 2nd Street, correct?
Yes.
How do they get out of 2nd Street? Do they back out?
No, I believe that they utilize Mr. Lake's property.
They turn around on my client's property,
Yes, sir.
correct? Yes. And when your street is plowed, where do the plow trucks turn around?
I believe they use Mr. Lake's property.
And there's no problem with the garbage trucks getting down the street, there's no problem with the plow trucks getting down the street, correct?
Well, I mean, to that question, how often do you have a plow truck coming down the street and you have a
I
garbage
just-
truck? Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I don't think that that's a fair question that I can give a yes or no answer to. I mean, you have a plow truck coming down a street maybe 4 times a year. You have a garbage truck coming down the alley at noon or 1 o'clock once a week. This is every night, cars flying in and out, speeding in and out of the place.
And what's the size of the street?
It's not your typical street. It's more or less an alley.
If I told you it was 25 feet, would you agree with me?
Possibly, yes.
And you say that people park on either sides of the street, correct?
Yes.
But you can still get 2 cars pass each other on the street, correct?
Did you?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But,
Sorry.
No, sometimes it's difficult. You
So
know,
someone waits and lets somebody by if someone is parked too far into the road.
yeah, or if you have a visitor, you have to knock on the neighbor's door and ask them to move their car.
And how often did the cars that came to the softball batting establishment come down the street?
It seemed as though it was at least 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week.
That's all I have.
So just so I'm clear, Justin, you don't want no batting, nothing to do with batting there at all, right? Is that what you're saying?
The neighborhood, and speaking with everyone in the Scranton area and in our area, we're opposed to this. It's been unsafe. This is something that has been going on. We know what's going to happen if it goes in, and you know, the fact that we're here, you know, after the fact is.
As you heard, you know, it still can be rented out for other warehousing.
Well, you know, if it's denied, we have a year to you know, figure something out before he's back here.
They don't have to come back.
Oh.
They already have that.
Okay. Did you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay. I just have a couple of things to mention along with Justin's concerns. I know just from what was discussed previously, they mentioned the fence that surrounds, well, that's on the edge of the property. There is a wooden fence that they recently put up between their property and the back of the Wheeler Ave properties that are right there, but the fence has not continued along my side of the property, which is sort of, if you're going down the alley on 2nd Street, mine is the last garage on the left prior to getting into the lake property. So the fence that's right there is my fence, basically, or the one that came, you know, it was there when we purchased the house 10 years ago. We've been in there over 10 years now. And there is a pile of fence, the wooden fence, that still has yet to be put up that's in their parking lot. So I'm assuming that they're going to continue with it, but it's not there yet. And I know that you mentioned a light for a sign, like whether there was an illuminated sign. There is not an illuminated sign, but there is a light that is on almost all hours of the day and night, mostly the night, because it comes in the windows all the time. So that is constantly on. I don't know whether it's illuminating the side of the building or what it is, or if it's just for security reasons, but it's not like a motion light because it's on all the time. So that light is on, just as far as lighting is concerned. Parking, obviously, it seems to be a lot of space in that area, but on the nights, apparently, when this softball or batting practice thing was going on, what I thought was going on was like an auction or something, because he was, to the best of my knowledge, it was a warehouse for the stuff that they were going to sell. So I thought they were having like sales or something in there, because there were multiple cars that were parked in front of my parking pad, and they just sat there. And sometimes there was like a person sitting in there. So it's affecting the character of really the neighborhood to have people, well, first of all, blocking your parking pad, because I have space for 4 cars that are off street. And generally we only have 2 cars, but sometimes we have visitors, obviously. So there were cars parked in the alley, both on the street and in front of my parking pad, to the extent that you can hardly pull out of my parking area without either hitting a car that's already parked there or being worried that someone is flying down the alley to one of these practices that's going to hit you when you're trying to pull out, let alone, I have 3 children under the age of, well, 8 and under. So I have concerns with them getting out of the car or going around the back of the car if somebody's going to swerve and hit them, because that street, and I know they said it was a normal street, it is not. When there are cars parked on either side of the street, which they always are, there is not room. You're lucky if you're able to squeeze your 1 car through. So there is not room for two cars to go side by side past each other. That on a normal day would never happen, generally.
What road are you talking, which road, are you talking about Second Street for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because Wheeler Avenue is just, there's no parking on Wheeler right there. Right, yep. So we pull, yeah, William Street, then onto Second, and that's the way we get to our parking area. So just, I didn't realize what was going on until we just recently found out about the other operation that was going on for the past year, and now it all makes more sense of why there was so much increase in traffic and people parked around and hanging around that wouldn't normally be there. And as far as traffic goes, when this is going on during like the off-season, I guess you could say, I mean, it's also snow season, and when we have big snowstorms, we're lucky if we get plowed out within a day. Half the time we're out there with our own snow blowers plowing out part of Second Street. So it's also a concern to me that when the snow is all piled up and cars are trying to get in and out of there, it's going to be more of an issue. Even just for my kids' sport practices, I know when we go to different areas of wherever they're practicing or have their games, it's a madhouse trying to get in. And I'll just put, for example, Sherwood Park. There's plenty of parking up there, but when you get two teams that are playing at one time, minimum, and then another two teams that are coming in there, with all of these different cars from all the different teams, there's not even enough room to park up in there, in their parking area, let alone, so it's sort of the same scenario is what I'm trying to say, with the parents trying to get their kids there and do what they do. And as far as, let's see here, what Justin mentioned about being notified, we weren't really notified at all. I had called the zoning office to ask for more information because I wasn't able to find it the day after it was posted. I couldn't bring it up online very easily, so I asked for more information, and they said they would send me a postcard, but I never received one. So I think that, you know, Justin going around the neighborhood was very helpful so that everyone was more aware. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known, especially on the Dunmore side, about the issue. So those are my main concerns. I know that there's also been like trucks idling back there. It's hard to keep your windows open, especially in the summer, because the truck will idle out there when they had the other business. So that was also a concern, along with the light. So I don't know if there'll be more lighting that they're proposing to along with this, but...
By trucks, what do you mean? Like 18-wheeler trucks or like...
No, he has a truck that I know that he has a pickup truck, but also a business truck that he has, and he'll idle it in the parking lot. Like, I think it's the truck they use to bring, when they clean out houses or storage, they'll bring that truck with all those items to the warehouse, I guess.
Okay, because it doesn't look wide enough for 2 cars, let alone 1 truck. I'm just curious.
Yes, no problem.
And is there any way you can show me where on this map you live? Because you said you live in Dunmore?
Yes. Yeah, I can show you.
You could just...
And then the parking lot, and then this starts my property right here is where my fence is, and my garage, this is my house. And this is like, yes, yes, so the light is like right here, just like here, and the light, they'll be there, and just shine down.
Okay.
You know, I just have the playground.
Right, okay. Thank you. They live right behind it.
So those are my main concerns. I'm just worried about, you know, changing the character of the area and the safety concerns, obviously, in the back.
Oh, I know, but they've been operating for a year. I just, oh. So-
My point also, just other vehicles possibly idling and adding to the pollution, smell, yada, yada. I have asthma, so it's always a concern as far as triggers, the fumes, and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Do you guys have anything else?
Well, we understand those concerns. just for clarification, as my client has already pointed out, this is 4 months out of the year. This is not all year long, and it is the winter months. They're aware of snow, they're aware of issues like that, and Mr. Rossi doesn't want parents braving alpha elements. He cancels when there are issues along those lines. He doesn't expect them. A lot of his clientele come from Tunkhannock. They have a phenomenal softball team. They were state champs. They have some kids that went on to a national champ. So they're coming from pretty far away for this specialized. It's 3 to 4 kids at a time at the most. Again, more than enough parking. If they're parking outside Mr. Lake's property, then that's something we can deal with. We can tell them, you don't park out there. You always come into the parking lot. He wasn't aware of that. We weren't aware of that. That's something new to us. As far as idling vehicles, he owns a truck. He parks it there. He could own 10 trucks and park them there if he wanted to expand his business. I think that has nothing to do with the batting practice. And as far as access, there's always the possibility they come in second, they go out Engle Court or something. We can work with the neighbors about the parking issue and about the driving issue because, again, it's a small number of parents that are coming. Each one of them can be talked to before they even come and explain that there are issues with the neighbors, and we don't want it to become an issue with the neighbors. Yep.
Is there anything you do, and direct it to your client there, your parking lot is just basically, I'll say a dirt, gravel type parking lot. Is there anything you do with that parking lot to ensure that the increased number of vehicles that will be coming in and out there, are you looking at paving that parking lot?
Eventually, yes.
Well, when's eventually?
I could do it for this season if I had to.
Because one of the concerns I'm sitting here thinking, listen to the neighbors, and when I went up there today, it was dry, and I could see the dust coming up behind my car as I'm coming into. I came off through the court because I had no idea 2nd Street where it is up there or anything. So, Waze took me to the court. So, but I did notice an awful lot of dust and everything. I think that should be a concern for the neighbors.
Sir, the parking lot is modified.
Yeah.
It isn't.
I don't mean dirt. It's modified, but you and I both know there's a large amount of dust and everything that collects in a modified parking lot. So, I mean, when I got in your park, because I turned around in it, I mean, it was kicking dust up and everything.
If they park and they pull out, there's no dust. But if they come in and turn around, sometimes there's dust.
But if your parking lot is modified as well, am I correct? So
yes.
You're gonna get dust.
Yeah.
I mean,
I haven't seen dust from a modified parking lot, but yes, it's possible.
We'll let it go at that. We'll let it go at that. Yeah.
Justin, or the woman that spoke, is there any happy medium if he was decide to pave a little bit, if he was to use an entrance in and an exit out? Is there any work in any kind of happy medium that we can come to? I mean, is there certain days or hours that were bad? Or, I mean, like, is there anything we can work with, or are you guys just completely no-go?
I mean, here's what I would recommend, just to be fair and reasonable. You know, they came in at the last minute and changed their argument. We had no time to prepare.
I'm going to ask you to speak up.
I'm sorry. To be fair, they came in at the last minute and had a change to their application, and we weren't able to prepare for it. However, in light of the fact of what Attorney Penatar pointed out and Chairman Walsh, you know, there may be room to be reasonable. If they're willing to pull this for now and sit down and have a meeting with us, I don't know if this is appropriate or can be done. This is something that could be discussed, you know, speed bumps.
It definitely can be done.
Speed bumps in the neighborhood, and certainly Dunmore is going to have to sit down at the table here. Joe Lawrence wasn't even contacted. He's the zoning officer in Dunmore. I understand, but there's, in reading the law, there's language that adjacent municipalities have some sort of say or an effort.
They would have some standing. I mean, their road is being used as the entrance and exit to this.
So if we can involve Dunmore in some talks and see if we can come up with a resolution.
Would you be willing to continue this hearing and maybe sit down with the neighbors and see if we come up with some kind of happy medium so everybody's happy?
I guess.
I did notice these two. I noticed all the abutting, and I did notice those two properties. He didn't have them on your schedule.
Chairman Walsh, I'm just a little confused as to what we would have to do with Dunmore. And
Well, I don't agree there's anything that has to be done with Dunmore, but
okay.
I agree
thought
that...
that's what you meant, that...
No,
no,
I agree that maybe...
Sit down with the neighbors.
Sit down with the neighbors would definitely be a good thing to do, and maybe you guys can come to an agreement.
That's fine with me.
And then we can come back next month and we can hopefully, maybe you have something worked out, and if you don't, then we can take a vote of how...
That would be my recommendation.
And if we can work it out, I'll come here and support it, Mr. Lake. I mean, these issues are divisive. You just saw earlier tonight. I don't want to have a neighbor on the block that I can't talk to or,
Sure.
turn my head to when I see.
And I'll speak for the board on this one. We just threw a tough case up in the borderline of Dunmore and Scranton with the school for the deaf, and part of the problem was two sides never talked to each other. And we worked that case up by finally getting the two sides to talk, and, everyone was happy. So please, don't expect miracles from each side, both of you. I mean, come to a happy median. You're not going to get everything you want, and they're not going to get everything they want. Just be adult about it and come to terms with each other.
Sir, I'm willing to do what I have to do on my end.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that last case, both sides were just stubborn and wouldn't work anything out, and finally they did, and, the case resolved, and both sides were happy. And that's what we want to see here. Just both sides happy, You run your business, neighbors are happy, it keeps it quiet a little bit, so, and
And I would think a seasonal business would be better than a big-time, full-time business running in and out of there. So maybe you guys could come up with a...
Oh, for sure. I agree. And as far as the speeding is concerned, I thought about putting a speed bump going out of my property so they can't jet out.
That would be huge. That'd be huge.
I would do that.
Those are the things you need to talk about.
yeah, talk to them about it, set up a time, and we're going to need them to...
Just to clarify the record, Mr. Hailstone, would you ask for a continuance to September?
Yeah, we'd ask for the continuance until September.
Okay, so we have the
Granted.
record complete.
Good.
We're good with it?
Yes.
We're
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See
guys.
Next month.
Meeting adjourned.